great to be here today. Thank you for coming out to our Alleyway pilot project kickoff, which is really a dream come true for me as the former council member who has cared about alleys and seen them as a incredibly untapped benefit and asset to Salt Lake City. And hey, Steve, come on up if you want. And never had an opportunity until now to have our awesome residents who also see an incredible asset and benefit yet to be really dusted off, coming together and making this 850-foot long stretch of alleyway the first Salt Lake City alleyway pilot project in our capital city. Yeah, I know. Good job, everybody. So that means that this community is going to be installing and maintaining art and rose bushes that exist here and adopting it as really a shared space that is sort of an extension of backyard and sidewalk combined. Salt Lake City has over 50 miles of alleyways, and almost all of them are in states of disrepair, as Salt Lake City has really never had a budget to maintain them, as we already have a hard time keeping up with the public roads that we maintain. And so this is an ingenious way that brings neighbors together. It brings their work ethic and passion together, and in this case, it brings some city resources out that are removing the crumbled roadway that was here from who knows how long ago, and sort of cleaning up the shared space of it so that these neighbors can bring their beauty and heart into the space. I think that the opportunity of alleyways is, one, to provide a sense of place and an extension of our pretty small square foot lots in Salt Lake City. A lot of us are on 1/10 of an acre here. And to create, secondly, and maybe most importantly, another way for us to travel in our city that's off of the busy roadways, a place for people to walk their dogs and experience sort of some peace and quiet in otherwise busy parts of our capital city. 50 miles of opportunity are in front of us, and this is the first 850 feet of those 50 miles that I hope will inspire neighborhoods across the city to look beyond their back fence and see that neighbor's fence 15, 20 feet away and think about how we could come together literally and figuratively in those gaps between our yards and create spaces that people like John Larson back there, who's the director of transportation, would love to see more people riding their bikes to work, kids walking to school with their parents, people walking their dogs in the evening, connecting. I'll share one more way that I love alleyways, which is raising my kids, walking, pushing strollers, even learning how to ride bikes. My kids learned where the grapes hang over the fence. They learned to pick those grapes when they get ripe. They knew where the walnut tree was, and I taught them how to smash the walnut just barely so they could eat the meat that's inside. They knew where the raspberries grew through the fence. They knew where the chickens were, and they'd feed the grapes. It's a really beautiful way to connect with nature, and kids do that in a way that we as grown-ups sometimes forget, and our alleyways can be like extensions of our parks in Salt Lake City. So congratulations to this neighborhood in Liberty Wells, which is, I'm sorry to all the other community councils, the most industrious community council in Salt Lake City. I'm going to give the time over to Council Member Darin Mano, and then we'd love to hear from Liberty Wells Chair Caitlin Lutsch, and she'll introduce some of the other community members who are here today. Darin.
Thanks, Mayor. I hate speaking after the mayor. She does such a great job, but I'm so excited to be here today. This is a day of celebration. When I was first appointed to the council a year and a half ago with some enormous shoes to fill, then Council Chair Chris Wharton came to us and asked us to create a list of our priorities, what we wanted to accomplish over the next year. And one of the words on my list was alleyways. And I didn't have anything else other than the word alleyways because I didn't really know what I wanted to accomplish in alleyways. But I knew that alleyways were an untapped potential, that decades and generations of neglect had turned alleyways into a blight, into a space for crime to occur. But with a little bit of investment, they could become an asset that would be transformative to our neighborhoods. there's a Brazilian urban designer named Jaime Lerner, and he was the mayor of a city called Curitiba, Brazil. And he did these small-scale interventions that had big impacts on the neighborhoods, and he called them urban acupuncture. So a small-scale urban intervention that has a broad impact on the surrounding urban context. And that's what I think that this is. Think about the way that when the streets 800 East or 900 South were closed during the pandemic, the way that we experienced those streets in an entirely different way. Those are small-scale interventions that have huge impacts on our neighborhoods. And what's particularly exciting about this specific project to me is the community involvement. The Liberty Wells Community Council, the mayor Mayor and I cannot state that enough, that the Liberty Wells Community Council really rallied around this idea. They saw the vision early, and they set out to do some hard work to make this a reality. This alleyway is not just getting repaved. It will become a corridor for kids to walk safely to school. It will become a great place to walk your dog or to recreate. It will connect with the Kensington Avenue neighborhood byway, which we just finalized the budget for. And it'll be a space for residents to display art or create gardens and to have some creativity. And it'll bring the community together, building relationships and strengthening bonds toward a shared goal. Before I end, I just want to say thank you to a few people. Thank you, first of all, to the mayor, who has cared about alleyways since before I was a council member. One thing I learned recently through this project was that most of the alleyways in the city happen in Districts 5 and in District C. So it's great that we have a mayor that understands how many alleyways we actually have in this district and how important they are. I wanted to say thank you to Tim Cosgrove, who's really from the mayor's office, who has really taken this project under his wing and coordinated all of us to make sure that this keeps moving forward. And then, of course, thank you to the Liberty Wells Community Council. I remember, I don't know how many months ago it was, but Janae Nardone and Caitlin Lutsch and I went on a walk down the alleyways and just sort of walked through the alleyways to see where potential projects could be, and this is one of them that we walked on. They then organized a Saturday where we all came together and knocked doors along this alleyway and made sure that the community was on board with that. And that was a lot of hard work that was put in, and this would not have happened without you. So thank you so much. And in closing, I just want to say I'm so excited for this. I cannot wait to see what this alleyway will look like in a year from now, because hopefully this will become a model for the other 500 miles of alleyways through 50 miles, okay, whatever, I added a zero, 50 miles of alleyways throughout our city, so that we can have great community assets like this throughout the district and throughout the entire city. Thank you.
So about, 8-10 months ago, sometime last year, we had a community meeting with the neighborhood, and Councilmember Mano was at that meeting. I remember we had a really broad agenda. We broke into small breakout groups, and we asked the neighbors of Liberty Wells, what do you want us to work on in the coming year? And what we heard from one of the breakout groups when they reported back to the full group was that they wanted us to look at our alleys. And I think Councilmember Mano might have even been the one who suggested it in the group, but it got a huge warm reception from the rest of the community. And I didn't know at the time how the alleys were being utilized. I found out from talking to my neighbors in the months after that a lot of our neighbors are using the alleys already as a quiet, reflective, off-the-street space to walk their dogs and take their evening walks, just as the mayor and Councilmember Mano mentioned. And when I spoke to all of them, they all wanted to see them used. They wanted to see them activated in more ways. They wanted to see more art. They wanted to see more landscaping. They wanted to be able to use them more. And so we ended up, as Councilmember Mano mentioned, knocking doors on this alley after walking most of the alleys in the neighborhood, and met Shelly Carpenter, who is behind me. Yes, huge applause. And Shelly had been already organizing with Shanna here on their block for years, cleaning up the alley, going literally down the alley weekly with their trash pickup, like owning the alley for themselves. And that was a huge, huge sign to us that this was going to be an amazing partnership to work with them and make this alley as amazing as it could be. So that's basically what we've been doing for the last 5 months. We got in touch with Tim Cosgrove from the mayor's office and Councilmember Mano, and as well as engineering. David Jones and Matt Castle were amazing to work with, and over about let's give everybody the applause. I have a lot of names to drop, but that's a few of them first. And we got to work figuring out what the neighbors wanted, and it was a completely collaborative process. So I just want to shout out the power of community organizing from the ground up. This was really like, this alley was already being organized before the Liberty Wells Community Council or the mayor's office or city council got involved, and that's why it's going to be a success. So thank you to everyone who lives on this alley, who's been already doing the work and will continue to be, and we can't wait to see what happens. Quick shout out to the rest of the Liberty Wells Community Council. There's a few people standing behind me: Stephen Hunt, Olivia Rossi, Sarah Adelman, Ross Chambliss, and I see Maeve over there. And Karen standing there too. So it was a huge group effort, and we can't thank everybody enough. We can't wait to see what it looks like when it's done. So thank you so much.